ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्णा चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांता स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंचाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिंधुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्व वैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्वलौकिक दृक्प्रद सर्व भागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिद्वंतोतिदादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाथाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्वसेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते। मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मन महादन मद निस्तारक मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते। असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीचोच ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन माम प्रेम न रित कंथयो स्पुरः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। शृणुतां सकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनम हृदयन्तस्तु अभद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सताम्। हरे कृष्ण। Yes, thank you, dear devotees, for joining. And if you can turn on your video cameras, please turn them on. And we are going to discuss Canto 2, Chapter 5 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a technical section, but it's actually, let's see, we'll try to make it as easy as possible. And once you understand this section, you'll really appreciate that entire aspect of creation. It's a very nice section, actually. Okay. So let's start off. Does anyone have any reflections or thoughts or even questions from last time's session that you would like to start off with? Anyone? Anything from last time's? So what did we discuss last time? Any points from last time?
Sure, Prabhu. Go ahead, Mataji. So I was just thinking that for yesterday's, for when before going to MSF, I had to read before. So there was this 17th verse I wrote while you were saying that yesterday, that I am I'm inspired by him. I'm the seer. Basically, sorry, Krishna is the seer. He is the controller. He is the most intelligent. He is the super soul. How all these factors, and you said that point, that all the inspiration in devotional service also comes from him. He is the controller. He will make the person open or not. So yesterday I was really pondering on this verse while on practical application. Like,
Very
let's
nice.
see what happens. What Krishna wants from this door.
That's a very nice point. So we are reading the section where Brahma is actually talking to Narad Muni, and he's actually making the point that I am not the original creator. I am creating what has already been created, right? And he makes the point that actually Krishna gives the inspiration, right? So even practically for us to do different kinds of service, he gives the inspiration. Then he is the witness. Like while we are doing the seva, he's actually witnessing what is our mood in which we are actually doing the seva. So second point, then he is the controller. Everything that's happening, he is actually the original controller. And then he gives the intelligence for us to do the seva, right? While we are doing the seva, we need intelligence. How should I actually talk to this person? How should I interact with this person? How should I do the cooking seva? All that intelligence is actually given by him. And finally, Brahma makes a point. Actually, it is that Krishna who is in the heart of every living entity, and hence he is known as Akhila Atmanaha. He is situated in all living beings. Right? That's a super soul. Right? So that's a very nice point. So Krishna is a controller, Krishna is giving intelligence, Krishna is a witness. And the only thing that we need to do is what do we need to do? If everything Krishna is doing, what are we doing? The only thing that we have to do is we need to agree to become an instrument in Krishna's service. That's all. We just need to say, yes, Krishna, I am your servant. I want to serve you. That's it. As soon as we agree to actually say, Krishna, I am yours. Please use me in your service. As soon as that, that's a mood of surrender or service comes up, then Krishna says, okay, you want to serve? I have been waiting for so long for you to say this to me. And as soon as we say that, then Krishna gives us the inspiration. He connects us with devotees. He gives us different kinds of services to get involved with. So all those aspects happen. We just have to say, Krishna, I am your instrument. Please use me in your service. Okay, so let's start. So we are going to, we are in Canto 2, Chapter 5, and this chapter starts off with Narad Muni asking 6 questions, right? The 6 questions. So first question is what? Yad Rupam. What are the characteristics of this universe? Second question is what is the shelter of the universe, which is also known as Yad Adhishtana, right? The third one is how is the universe created? Yatha Shishtam. So this is basically going to be our point and our question of discussion today. I think this may take our whole class just to discuss this particular aspect of Yatha Shishtam. How is it created? Then fourth one is Yat Samstham. How is it conserved? Right? And so after destruction, what happens to the universe? In Yat Param, what does it depend on? And then Yat Cha, what is it composed of? What are the ingredients of this material world? Right? So 6 questions. Out of that, we have already discussed question number 1, 2, and 5. Right? So what are the characteristics of the universe? What is the shelter? And what it depends on? Right? So what is this? What is the answer? What are the characteristics of the universe? Then Brahmaji has actually made the point. He says like it is actually only Vasudeva. So he makes a point there are 5 components of this universe, right? So who remembers 5?
Ingredients: karma, kala, nature, jiva.
Yeah. So Kala, Dravya, Jiva, Swabhav, and Karma. Right? And how did we explain this? Is that every living entity, so Jiva, is under the influence of Kala, that is the second aspect, Kala. And how is he acting? 2 aspects are there. One is his Swabhav, his nature, and when he acts according to his nature, he gets some results. That is karma, right? Karma. And how is he acting? What is he acting with? And that is basically the dravya or the prakriti. So these five are actually the elements of this material world. And where are these five coming from? Whose energies are these five? That is Vasudeva. Hence, Vasudeva is actually the Yad Adhishtanam and Yad Param. He is the shelter and he is also the dependence of this universe. And then further, this is elaborated into 10 different categories where he actually says Narayan. Narayan is the source of everything. And he says Veda, Gati, Jnana, Tapa, Yoga, Makha, Loka, and Devata. Right? And we discussed this point that Paraha that comes in this verse, there are two meanings to that. Anyone remembers the two meanings to that?
Cause and meant for.
Yeah, the cause of these elements, cause of the Vedas, the cause of Gati, Gyan, Tapa, Yoga is actually Narayan. And it is meant for what? For the pleasure of Narayan. Right? And we discussed this, that how in this material world, there may be a difference between these two. And the example we gave is like, let's say we are building a guest house in the temple, right? The cause, the need for the guest house is because guests are coming. But it's not that guests are building it, we are building it. But for aspect of creation, it is Narayan who is both the cause and he is actually building the entire thing. So he is both the creator and it is actually for the pleasure of Lord Narayan. So, so that was question number 1, 2, and 5. And then from text 21, we are going to discuss Yatha Shishta, right? How the creation of this universe takes place. Okay. So any questions up to this point? Everyone is ready for this section on 21 onwards? Right. So now we have to really focus. You know, this is a time, it's a little technical. So please have like a notebook, you know, I'm sure everyone has a notebook to write notes. You can keep Subodhini with you. And also I will try to, you know, write some notes on the screen so you can also follow along. Okay. Everyone good? Ready to start? Okay. So text 21. Ratnareka, you're ready.
Kalam karma svabhavam cha mayesho mayaya swaya atman yadrichaya praptam vibhu bhushur upadade.
Okay, so we have starting from Varshana Priya Mataji.
The Lord, who is the controller of all energies, thus creates by his own potency, eternal time, the fate of all living entities and their particular nature, for which they were created, and he again merges them independently.
Okay, 1 minute. Let's do this. Yeah, okay. So Kalam, Karma, Swabhava. Right. So we discussed these three points even in that section of text 14 through 16. Kala, Karma, Swabhava. What is Kala? Time. Karma is the results of our activities, and Swabhava is the nature by which we act. Right. So it says Kala, Karma, Swabhava. Mayeshu, Maya, Ishaha. Ishaha means what? Controller. Right. Ishaha, we say Ishaha is controller, like Ishopanishad. Right. Controller. So Ishaha. So Maya Ishaha, the Lord who is the controller of Maya, what does he do? Mayaya Swaya, by his own Swaya, by his own potency, and then Yadrichaya, by his own independence, by his own will, and then what does he do? Vibhu Bhushaha, desiring to become many or appears differently, Upadade, accepts for creation. Okay. So I know there are many aspects to this, but first aspect of creation is what, you know, that aham evasam evagre. We'll discuss this also in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto, that actually Krishna makes the point that before the creation, it is who existed? It is only the Lord existed, right? So before this entire aspect of creation, who was there? It was only Krishna and his main expansions, or Mahavishnu. Right? Before the creation, he was there. During the creation, he's the one who maintains it. After creation, it is he only who exists. Okay, so it is Mahavishnu. Let's start off with Mahavishnu, who is the expansion of Krishna, right? Now he is said to be the controller of Maya, right? So Lord Krishna has many consorts, right? Many consorts by which he enjoys. Now one of the consort is also Maya Devi. So before the start of the creation, this Maya Devi is sleeping in Krishna or in Mahavishnu. Okay, this Maya Devi is sleeping in Mahavishnu. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually explains that yes, the Lord has so many consorts who are giving him pleasure. But now, just like, and we don't talk about this in this material world, it is immoral. But if you consider one husband with many wives, right? So the other wives are giving pleasure to the husband. But now there is a particular need for creation. And for that, he needs to enjoy with Maya Devi, right? So by the will, Yadricha, by the will of the Lord, then Maya Devi, who is actually sleeping, she awakens. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually goes and makes this point that how can a husband enjoy with a wife who is sleeping? He has to wake her up, right? So similarly, Maya Devi awakes by the will, right? So this verse is actually saying Yadrichaya, by the will of the Lord, and Mayaya Swaya. And who is Maya Devi? It is actually the energy of the Lord itself, right? It is a consort of the Lord, an energy of the Lord, and also Maya Ishaha. It is the Lord is the controller of Maya Devi. Okay, so in this, because they are sequential, so anytime there is a question, please stop and ask at that time, because it will lead one section to the other. Okay, now, okay, so the first is the aspect of Maya Devi. Now, after Maya Devi wakes up, what is the aspect that is happening? He is actually creating, right? Upadade. Upadade means he accepts for creation Kala, time, which was merged in him. Atman Praptam Kalam. Right? So two aspects are there. Now, Kala is what? Time. Right? So if you consider Mahavishnu, he is lying on the Karana, on the Karana ocean, right? And there is no aspect of time because Mahavishnu is actually eternal. Now, as soon as there is a desire of the Lord to create, the first element, the first energy that comes from the Lord is what? Kala. Right? Kala, time. Right? That is his own energy, is actually Kala. So if you consider Mahavishnu lying on the ocean, and as soon as the breathing aspect, all these universes, the bubbles are coming out from Mahavishnu, as soon as they come out, the first aspect is time. Because with the universes, what are we saying? There is creation, there is maintenance, there is annihilation. Means something is happening sequentially. And when you say something is happening sequentially, it means what? That is the aspect of time. Right? Okay, so Kala. So Upadade, right? Kala is mentioned. And then, okay, and then the two other aspects are what? Karma and Swabhava. Right? Now, why is the Lord actually creating? Right? So this point is actually said that the Lord is feeling one way insufficient. Though the Lord is completely happy, he is Atma Ram, he is Aptakam, but because so many jivas are actually within his body and he's not one way, they don't have a chance to actually turn back to him, he's feeling a little bit insufficient. And then he's actually doing this task of creation. Right? So that is the cause of creation. So the jivas are within the body of Mahavishnu, right? And what is connected with these jivas? Karma and Swabhava. Right? Karma and Swabhava. Okay, I need to do one thing. Okay, is this verse okay? Right, up to this point, everyone got Kala, Karma. Where are Kala and Karma actually connected with? Please unmute and say.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Karma and Swabhava are connected to the jivas, you said.
Yes. And where is time energy that Kala coming from?
Mahavishnu's
Mahavishnu, Karanodakshaya.
Yeah. So that aspect of time, Kalaha is his own personal energy, but Karma and Swabhava is connected with the Jiva. right? I'm actually trying to do one thing so that I can draw this out so that it'll be easy for you. Let's see if this works. Okay. Just give me 1 minute. I'm just trying to set this up. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Okay. Now I'm ready. Let me finish this. Okay, so you can see my screen? Yes?
Yes.
Oh no,
No?
I
See it
cannot.
just white.
It's white.
White, right? Yeah, that's my screen.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
At least you can see the right screen. Okay, so that's good. So let's say, so here, okay, so you can see, right? So first aspect is that of, you have two things, right? Kala, right? So this is the energy of the Lord. And the other aspect is Jiva. Right? And with this Jiva, there is Karma and Swabhava. Okay? Karma and Swabhava. And then this has to start off with what? This entire thing starts off with Karano, Dakshai Vishnu or Mahavishnu. So from Karano, Dakshai Vishnu, you have this Kala and Jiva is associated with Karma and so on, right? And also one aspect that we mentioned here is the aspect of Maya, right? How Maya Devi is actually sleeping and she's a consort of the Lord, and by the will of the Lord, she actually awakens, right? So Maya is under, so the Lord is the controller of Maya. That's the verse here where it says Ishaha, the Lord is the controller of Maya. Then we also read the point that he is actually independently doing this by his own will, right? So he's not dependent on anyone to actually do this task of creation. He's not forced to do it. He's independently acting, right? And then what is the other point of this verse? Yeah. And then, so this point, controller independently is actually working, Maya Devi is a consort, and he's actually awakening her. So she actually awakens Maya Devi. Okay. Okay, so this is good. I think this is working now, actually. So let me just go back to my notes. Sorry, just initially to set this up is taking me a minute, but I think it'll be useful for our further discussion. Okay. Okay, so up to this point is okay. Karma, Vishnu, Kal, Jiva, Karma, and Swabhava, right? Okay. Okay. So now in the purport, Prabhupada is actually making the point that he actually says how the cause of the creation, why is the creation actually happening? And Prabhupada actually explains it is because these conditioned jivas, we living entities, we want to lord it over, right, this material nature against the will of the Lord, right? So Prabhupada is actually saying we are put into play as they desire under the control of Lord. by the agency of Maya. So we have given this example, right? So in a house, the child is under the protection of the father, right? And the father is taking care of the child. He's maintaining the child. He's doing everything. And the child, like initially he's like, okay, let's say he's, loyal to his parents and he's, serving the parents. But at a particular point, the child actually says, oh, why my father is the one who is the main controller of this house? I want to be the controller, right? And what does the father say? How can the child actually be the controller of this entire house? That is not his position right now. So in the backyard, he actually creates what? A playhouse. He creates a playhouse, and it looks like the whole house, but it's like a small, tiny playhouse, and he sends the child there, and he actually, has one of his energies or one of his servants there to take care of the child, and that is Maya Devi. And in that play home, the child is now thinking, oh, now I have become the controller. I am actually maintaining this playhouse. This house is mine. I have toys. I have all these things. So Prabhupada says that we living entities, we are put into play as we actually desire to actually turn away from Krishna, right? Okay. The second point Prabhupada actually makes in this purport is he actually talks about the aspect of creation and annihilation. And why is he actually making this point? Because we made the point that in Mahavishnu, that is what? The jivas are actually in the body of Mahavishnu. But where have those jivas actually come in the body of Mahavishnu? From the previous time when the creation, maintenance, and annihilation took place. When the annihilation took place at the previous time, then all the living entities who were not purified, they actually enter into the body of Mahavishnu. So in the previous cycle of creation, they had a particular karma, they had a particular swabhava, and now because they are not purified, they have entered the body holding on to that karma and that swabhava. And hence when the breathing, they are actually coming out with that same karma and swabhava. Right? And Prabhupada actually points out, it is like a cyclic thing. So this aspect of creation, maintenance, annihilation, it goes on and on and on. Right? It is actually one way. Eternal, this creation is happening. So that every moment this creation starts, there are living entities in the body of Mahavishnu. And also Prabhupada says, in the purport, he says the process of creation and annihilation is called anadi, or without reference to date regarding the time the creation first took place. So there is no a particular time that, oh, from this time, Mahavishnu started breathing. No, this is also happening continuously. And because the duration of even a partial creation is 8.64 billion years. Now, where did that number come from? Anyone can explain? 8.64 billion years. So, I'll quickly mention that. But, yeah, go ahead. Anyone else? Okay.
The number of species, Prabhu, it's the same number of species.
That's a different concept.
It's
Yeah. Okay, so here, see, 430,000 years is the time period of Kali Yuga, right? 132,000. If you multiply that by 2, 864,000 is Treta Yuga. Multiply 430,000 by 3, that is Dwapar Yuga, and then multiply by 4 is actually Satya Yuga. So Satya Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, Treta Yuga, Kali Yuga. Now, if you add all these, that is one Divya Yuga. And that is, if you add all these, it comes to 4.32 million years. Okay. Now, 4.32 million years. And how many of these Divya Yugas is there in the day of Brahma? 1,000. 1,000 Divya Yugas in the day of Brahma. Right? So 4.32 million multiplied by 1,000 is the day of Brahma, and night is also the same duration, so multiplied by 2. So 4.32. Okay, so we started with what? 432,000 is the Kali Yuga period, right? Kali Yuga lasts for this. You multiply that by 2. right? You get 864,000. Multiply 432,000 by 3, you get 1296,000. And then multiply by 4, 1728,000. And you add all this, it is 4.32 million. So this is one Divya Yuga, right? One Divya Yuga. This multiplied by 1,000 is the day of Brahma. And night time is also 1,000. So multiply that by 2. So you get 8.64 billion years. So this is, Prabhupada says, is the partial creation. So one, at the starting of the day of Brahma, what happens? Then again Brahma wakes up and again the creation actually takes place. So that is partial creation. And when Brahma lives for 100 years, and then when he dies, that creation that takes place, that is full complete creation. Right? So this is only partial creation, and then that is complete creation. Okay. Okay, so and then let's see what else in the purport. Prabhupada makes the point. Right. And then he actually says, so when this creation takes place, there is a Mahat Tattva, and we will come more to this Mahat Tattva. He actually explains that this Mahat Tattva is just the energy of the Lord. So both spiritual and material, they are just the energies of the Lord. So if you consider whether the spiritual world or this entire material world, they are energies of the Lord. But the Lord remains separate from all this. Can anyone quote verses either from Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam that actually state that yes, everything that is happening in this material world, whether all the material or spiritual energies, is all energies of the Lord, but the Lord is actually aloof from all these. Famous verse, everyone knows these verses. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.
Janmadhyasya to.
Yes, Janmadhyasya asa atah. The first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it say? Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhiman. Yes, the first 3 lines of that verse actually says, yes, the Lord is the original creator, he is the maintainer, he is the annihilator, he is the one who is cognizant, right? You remember all this, right? 7 characteristics of the Lord. But the last characteristic is what? In spite of he doing all this creation, he is actually Dhamna Svena. He is actually eternally reside in his Dham, on his original spiritual abode, right? And he's forever free from illusory effect of Maya. So he's beyond the influence of Maya. Then also one more reference is what? Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, text 4, 5, right? Maya tatam idam samam jagat avyaktam murtina matstani sarva bhutani naham tesha avastita. Yes, everything is coming to him, naham, but I am not. Actually, I am aloof from all these aspects of creation. So yes, the Lord as Mahavishnu is breathing all these universes, everything is happening, but he is actually beyond all this, and he is just playing the flute, enjoying with the gopis of Vrindavan. So that is text list. Okay, clear text 21? Right? Okay, so now we'll move on to text 22.
Kaladguna vyatikara parinama swabhavataha karmano janma mata purushadishitad abhut.
22. After the incarnation of the first Purusha, Karunadakshay Vishnu, then the Mahat Tattva, or the principles of material creation, takes place. And then time is manifested. And in course of time, the 3 qualities appear. Nature means the 3 qualitative appearances. They transform into activities.
So after the incarnation of first Purusha, Karunadakshay Vishnu, or also that is known as Karnanavashayi Vishnu, right? The same. There's 2 names for the same. So this is Mahavishnu, right? So we, in that chart, you remember, first we started off with Karunadakshay Vishnu or Mahavishnu, right? So after the creation or the principles of material creation. Now, what is the principle of material creation? That is the Mahat Tattva, right? And we'll talk more about the Mahat Tattva. That takes place, and then time is manifested. So we already talked about this aspect of Kala. right? Kala, as we already talked. And in course of time, 3 qualities appear. What are the 3 qualities? Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna. Right? 3 qualities appear. Nature means these 3 qualities appear. As soon as we talk of Prakriti, actually we talked of Maya Devi as one of the concepts of the Lord. Maya Devi herself has these 3 elements of goodness, passion, ignorance. So as soon as we talk of Prakriti, there are these 3 modes of goodness, passion, ignorance. Okay? Nature means these 3 qualities appear and they transform into activities. So how do they transform into activities? As soon as we say mode of passion means what? How does Bhagavad Gita define the mode of passion? Can you unmute and say? Everyone, please wake up. Jeev Jago, Jeev Jago. Gora Chandra Bole.
Raja, sir.
Yeah, Raja, but what is the
Yeah, active.
okay.
Everybody's like in active at that time. Like in the morning, it's like sattva guna, then rajas and tamas comparing like day. So everybody's like active at that time.
So
Karma.
Bhagavad Gita says mode of passion is associated with unlimited desires that the living entity is trying to fulfill. So it means activity. There's so many desires, and as soon as the jiva tries to act upon these things, that is the mode of passion. Right? In the mode of ignorance, it is what? Yes, desires are there, but it's too lazy to act. Yes, I need this, but too lazy. Right? Mode of goodness is sattva. Right? So it comes up. Okay, so now let's continue. Okay, so in this verse, okay. Oh, I lost for that. Anyway, so in this verse, so we talked of Karnadaksha Vishnu, right? Okay, so from Karnadaksha Vishnu, we talked of Kala, and then we talked of Jiva, and Jiva we talked of as Karma, Swabhava. Yeah. This is Karnadaksha Vishnu. Okay, so right. So now the aspect of Mahat Tattva, we need to explain what is Mahat Tattva. How is Mahat Tattva actually coming? Right. So, so these jivas, they are actually, so when we know Karnadaksha Vishnu, right? So Prakriti, Maya Devi is awakened, and when the universes actually are coming out from the pores of Mahavishnu, then Mahavishnu is glancing upon these universes, right? The Prakriti, and he's impregnating these universes with what? Jiva. Right? So it is a glance of Karnadaksha Vishnu where he actually impregnates what? The material nature with the jivas. Right? So this material nature, there are 2 points here. One is the point of Pradhan, and one is the point of Mahat Tattva. Okay. So in this verse, it actually talks of the Mahat Tattva. Now, what is this Mahat Tattva, right? And now we are talking of from Karnadaksha Vishnu himself. So how from Karnadaksha Vishnu is this Mahat Tattva actually coming? So that is a point we need to discuss. So Mahat Tattva is the principle of material creation, is actually known as Mahat Tattva. Right? So I'm going to explain a little bit more about this Mahat Tattva. Actually, it's interesting. In the 3rd canto, in the 5th chapter of 3rd canto, like how in the 2nd canto, 5th chapter, we are talking of creation. The same thing will come in 3rd canto, 5th chapter. Exact same, but in more details. Exact same what we are discussing here. It comes repeatedly again in the third canto, 5th chapter. But that it's more detail. So this Mahat Tattva is one way. So I'll tell you a few points of Mahat Tattva. You can write them down because it's very nice. First Mahat Tattva is the sum total of all matter. The sum total of all matter is actually the Mahat Tattva. And it is actually because it is coming from the body of Mahavishnu, it is actually unalloyed goodness. Right? So there is Sattva Gun, but beyond that, there is Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva, or pure goodness. So this Mahat Tattva coming out from the body of Mahavishnu is that unalloyed goodness. Right? And this is actually considered as the shadow of the pure consciousness of Mahavishnu. Shadow of the pure consciousness of Mahavishnu. Now, is the shadow connected to the person or disconnected? Connected, right? Wherever you walk, as soon as the light is there, there's a shadow. The shadow is connected. So similarly, that Mahavishnu, Mahat Tattva, though it is a shadow of the pure consciousness, it is actually connected with the Mahavishnu, right? But that pure goodness, that Shuddha Sattva, has a slight addition of the mode of passion, because there is some kind of activity. So that Shuddha Sattva with a little tinge of passion is actually the Mahat Tattva. So one way to actually understand this is how you have seeds, right? When you plant the seed, then the tree becomes manifested. So this Mahat Tattva in one way can be considered as seeds of this universal manifestation. It is from this Mahat Tattva the entire universe is going to get manifested. So Mahat Tattva is the seed of this universal manifestation. Okay. Now this Mahat Tattva, okay, so we talked of Mahat Tattva, right? And then before that, there is Pradhan. So how come like this verse directly goes into Mahat Tattva is not talking so much about Pradhan? See, Mahat Tattva consists of three aspects: goodness, passion, ignorance, right? Predominantly, it is what? Pure goodness, with a tinge of passion. But because there is the aspect of Kala, or time, that mode of goodness gets transformed gradually into passion and then gradually into ignorance, because there is the aspect of Kala. Okay. Now, if you go one step above Mahat Tattva, Pradhan is actually considered as Mahat Tattva itself, but when the modes are not active. Right? When the modes, Sattva, Rajas, and Tama, are not active, that is the Pradhan. But as soon as they start becoming active, that is the Mahat Tattva. Right? And last time I gave this example that if you consider all the different elements, and if you consider everything together, like merged together, that is actually Pradhan, like just like a blob. But as soon as there is differentiation of the different elements, that is Mahat Tattva. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Prabhu, the Pradhan is when before Mahavishnu glances, right? And then Mahat Tattva is after he glances?
No. As soon as we talk of Pradhan and Mahat Tattva, one way Mahat Tattva and Pradhan is actually similar. It is a material nature. The only difference between Pradhan and Mahat Tattva is Pradhan also the modes are there, but they are not active. As soon as the modes become active under the influence of time, that is Mahat Tattva. So the Karandaksha Vishnu is actually glancing upon the Pradhan itself, but we actually say the Mahat Tattva. The main aspect is Mahat Tattva. But just to make a difference between Mahat Tattva and Mahat Tattva before the activity of the mode starts, Pradhan is actually mentioned. So that's why this Pradhan and Mahat Tattva, like how in this verse, it is said Mahat Tattva is the principle of material creation. Why not Pradhan? Because one way Pradhan and Mahat Tattva is actually similar. It's only just to draw a difference between when the modes become active, Pradhan and Mahat Tattva have been explained.
So they're the same thing, but it's just this time sequence difference before and after, kind of.
As soon as the modes become active, Pradhan becomes what? Mahatattva. When the modes are already there, even in Pradhan, but they are not active. And hence that is the Pradhan aspect.
Prabhuji, you said Mahatattva is the sum total of what?
Mahatattva is the sum total of all the matter. Entire material energy, matter, the sum total is the Mahatattva. See, Mahatattva can be considered as a medium between the pure spirit of Karandaksha Vishnu and the entire material existence. It is kind of a medium between the pure spirit and the material existence. I know it's so technical. People are like, oh, why did I join this Bhagavatam class? It's like Sunday morning is like churning my mind. But I hope people are following. Yes?
Yes, Prabhu.
That's good. Okay.
Prabhu, just one thing is that when you're speaking, just go a little slow so that we can.
Yeah. Okay. So please, if you're missing out something, please ask me to repeat. I can repeat. Right. So
Yes, the last sentence I missed that Mahatattva is the all.
So Mahatattva is the medium between the pure spirit, Karandaksha Vishnu, and the material creation. Right? The medium between these two aspects, or one way you can say the junction of the matter and the spirit. Right? Junction of matter and spirit is matter. Okay. Okay. So ready to continue? Yes. Go ahead.
Prabhuji, I have this question. I know you are saying this creation is anadi,
Yes.
but at some point there should be a starting point, right, for all these living beings to start.
So when we say start, that means we are connecting with time.
Okay.
But Karandaksha Vishnu and beyond, is that time? There is no time. See,
So
the thing is, like, because we are just used to think of everything in terms of starting, going on, and ending. So hence we think of everything just like, okay, at some time we must have been created. No. There is no time. As soon as you say we are created at a certain time, that I expect beyond that we are eternal. We are always existing. There is no time in the spiritual world in that way.
Right. What you said is correct. But after Kala comes, then only the Pradhan and Mahatattva is coming, right? According to the chart. So then Kala is there already when we are created.
But see, now, if I go back to my chart, where are Jivas present, Mataji?
In Mahavishnu.
In Mahavishnu.
Force of Mahavishnu, right?
So Mahavishnu, is he subjected to an aspect of time?
No.
The time is an energy of Mahavishnu. Right? So the Jivas are also eternal. They are in Mahavishnu. Now, at a particular time, then Krishna actually in the Mahavishnu feels insufficient. He says like, the Jivas are there, they don't have an opportunity so that they can come back to me. So let me actually, by his will, he wants to do this task of creation.
But we are already in his force, right?
Yeah. And how come we are already in his force? Because there was a previous creation in which we existed and then we didn't purify ourselves, we didn't take shelter of Krishna. Hence when the creation was annihilated, we went back into the body of Mahavishnu.
But originally we are pure, right, Prabhuji? Where are these impurities coming from?
That is because of our desire to turn away from Krishna. Krishna bahirmukha jiva bhogavancha kare. Krishna bahirmukha. We are in the spiritual world. It is all eternal, right? But at a particular moment, see that, we cannot say at a particular moment because time is not as such.
Okay.
It's like, it's a little bit inconceivable for us because we are used to think of everything in terms of time. But just for us to understand at a particular moment, we said, Krishna, why everyone is giving you gulab jamuns? I want to enjoy separate from you. Everyone should give me gulab jamuns. Right? I should be the enjoyer. And as soon as we say that, as soon as we have the desire, Then Krishna is so kind. He says, you want to be a controller? You want to be the main person? Okay, go into this Mahat Tattva, which is just my Brahma Jyoti, but just a shadow. There is a small shadow in this entire Brahma Jyoti. You can go there, try to become the enjoyer, the supreme controller. And then when you realize your mistake, you can come back to me. So in the spiritual world, it is just like the jiva one way goes and comes back. It's like, because there's no time as such, right? It's a little bit hard for us to conceive, but from the material point, this cycle is going on for so many. When did we fall into this material world? Anadi. We cannot even say that, oh, it was like 1,000 years back that I fell from the spiritual. No, it is going on again and again. We don't even know when we actually came into this material world. So that way, that cycle is anadi. Yeah, it is always going on. See, we are jiva, we are eternal, right? But at some point, that transition from the spiritual reality into material reality took place, right? And when we came into material, that cycle is always going on until the point when the jiva actually says, Krishna, I want to come back to you. That's when our journey starts back into the spiritual world.
Right. But the intelligence to lord it over is also coming from Krishna.
No, it's coming from our free will.
Our free will. Okay.
Krishna is because when we express our love, there has to be free will, right? The jivas have the free will, but as soon as there is free will, there is a option whether we use it rightly or we misuse it, right? Like just our children, right? We give them certain free will so that they can express their love for us. They can actually, but they can also misuse that and turn away from us. So because of the free will, we have a choice, and then once we make a wrong choice, we say, okay, Krishna, not you, me. As soon as we say me, okay, Krishna says, okay, try to be your me as the master and controller.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I was just thinking about this Kal aspect. So Prabhu, in the starting of Bhagavad Gita, in the introduction, Prabhupada mentions that it talks about like 5 aspects, like, and then 4 of these aspects are eternal. Only like karma is not eternal. So Kal is also eternal, like, from what I understood at that time is like, it's inconspicuous, like it does not have its bad effects as we see in the material world.
Yeah.
But like, how we get old with the influence of time and a disease, it does not have those effects, but it is still there, but in the state of equilibrium, maybe it's so it does not. Is that understanding correct, Prabhu? Like,
it is, we say time is conspicuous, Vice President.
Conspicuous, yes.
So the point is that in the spiritual world, like, there is one way a morning time, but why is that morning time? So that the Leela of Krishna going with the cowherd boys to the forest happens. That's the only reason, And then there is an evening time, because at the time Krishna comes back from churning the, taking care of the cows and comes back to parents. So just to manifest that Ashtakalya Leela, that 8 different Leelas throughout the day, that is the aspect of time. But that effect of time, as we see in terms of birth, old age, disease, that is not that in the spiritual world. But the only reason time happens is to actually this Ashtakalya Leela, this 8 Leelas of the day, for them to actually manifest.
Prabhuji, a different question going back to what you said. Goodness, passion is unlimited desires and act on them. Ignorance is lazy to act on them. Then goodness is no material desires.
No.
Bhakti is, sorry.
Desires are there, but it is not so much the desire of being the controller. At least there is a tinge of some, like how does Krishna define in the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as goodness? Can someone look it up? Chapter 14, text number 14. I'll pull it up. I'll just read that verse and make it very clear. So, let's see, chapter 14, text number right? See, the mode of goodness, being purer than the others, is illuminating and
Illuminating.
one from all sinful reactions. Okay, so that is the first point. That is purer than passion and ignorance, right? And that's point. And then mode of goodness conditions one to happiness, right? So when someone is in mode of goodness, that's naturally and happiness. And then Krishna explains, mode of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of body are illuminated with knowledge. Mode of passion means great attachment, unlimited desires, right? Hankering, that is mode of passion. Mode of ignorance is darkness, inertia. Okay, so all those points are mentioned. Then for mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. For mode of passion, greed develops. And for mode of ignorance, illusion develops. Right? So as soon as the jiva has some higher state of knowledge, beyond just the aspect of engaging the senses with the sense objects, that is mode of goodness. Okay, there is some knowledge beyond just the senses. And this will be clear because we'll talk about these three aspects of goodness, passion, and ignorance in a further explanation. Okay, now, okay, we need to proceed also. So so up to this point, we saw Pradhan, 3 modes inactive. Now, Mahatattva, 3 modes active. Now, what is Mahatattva in let me see, how do I... Okay, till this point is all okay? I can rub this off on the screen. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mati.
So Prabhuji, you said Mahatattva, initially it has only mode of goodness, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Because of the influence of time, it is not goodness, but like a tinge of the aspect of creation is there. So that passion, creation happens when there is passion, right? Tinge of passion. But as time progresses, that passion grows and manifests into ignorance. What does Krishna say in 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Kama esha, krodha esha, rajoguna samudbhava. Right? So as soon as the desire to enjoy is there, that lust is there, then that gets transformed into what? Brat, which is what? Anger. So passion actually becomes a mode of ignorance. Right? So it is pure goodness, but tinge of passion, but because of influence of time, that passion becomes manifest, and that actually leads to ignorance. So we'll discuss that. So if you see Mahatattva, so Mahatattva in goodness. Okay, so you can say this is goodness. Then in passion, so the same aspect of Mahatattva in passion is known as Sutra Tattva. Okay, this is in passion. And that same Mahatattva, when it manifests as ignorance, right, the 3 modes, goodness, passion, ignorance, what is this? This is Ahankar, or the false ego. Right? So if you're following up from the previous, I rubbed it off, but if you continue from Mahatattva, then you can say Mahatattva manifesting into 3. Right? So you can say here is Mahatattva, and that manifests into this. Okay. Goodness, passion, ignorance, right? So as I said, the modes are already there even in Maya Devi, who is actually sleeping, but when she is awakening, then the modes gradually, under the influence of time, they become active. And when the modes, Mahatattva, becomes active, in goodness, it is known as Mahatattva itself, in passion, it is Sutra Tattva, and in ignorance, it is Ahankar. Okay. Now, what is Sutra Tattva? Last time, Divanita and Nilamata asked this question. So, the Sutra Tattva, I'll give you a reference. It actually comes in the 10th canto and 11th canto. This Sutra Tattva is actually being explained. Let me see. Yeah. So Srimad Bhagavatam 11:24-6. gives this 11, 24, 6. And then 10th canto, I forget the reference, but it's in the section of 84 where the prayers of the Vedas are there, where it actually explains the Sutra Tattva is actually the creative energy. The creative energy is the Sutra Tattva. Okay. Creative energy is the Sutra Tattva, or also it is defined as the original vital air, which is also the creative energy. That is the Sutra Tattva, or also it is known as Buddhi Tattva. Buddhi Tattva. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let's see a little bit in the purport. 22, right? Yeah. So in 22, I'm going back to 22. You can look at the verse. So it says Kala, from eternal time, Guna Vyatikaraha. Right? So this word is very nice. Guna Vyatikara. Vyatikara means transformation of the gunas or the modes. Right? So we had talked up to Mahat Tattva. From Mahat Tattva, what is happening? Guna Vyatikara. The modes are, because of transformation of the modes, what you see on the screen, goodness, passion, ignorance, Mahat Tattva, Sutratattva, Ahankar are actually manifest, right? Take place. And then time, okay, time in course of time, 3 qualities uplift, right? Okay, so that's it. Okay. So so Prabhupada says it is all happening under the influence of Kala. Kala is the main cause. It is a synonym of nature. Prakriti, this manifestation happens only when there is aspect of Kala. So Kala is a synonym of nature, and all these transformations are happening under the influence of time. Now, can anyone say, we read in the 3rd chapter of the 2nd canto that someone can become timeless? What does it mean to become timeless? What was that verse?
If you hear Harikatha, you're not affected by death.
Ayur Harati Vaipumsam. Both by rising and the setting of the sun, time is lost for everyone. Time is taken away from everyone except for those who are engaging in hearing and speaking Harikatha. And why is that? Because under the influence of time, all these transformations are happening. But if you are actually engaging, glorifying Krishna, then you are actually on the spiritual platform. And when you go Karnadaksha, Vishnu and beyond, in the spiritual nature, there's no time. So that way we become timeless, even though we are here in this material world. So everything is happening under the influence of Kala. Okay. Now text 23.
Mahatastu vikurvanad raja sattvopa brimhitat tama pradhanastvabhavad dravya jnana kriyatmakaha.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Material activities are caused by the Mahatattvas being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the modes of goodness and passion, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, matter, its knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play. Hare Krishna.
The first part of this verse I already discussed. So material activities are caused by the Mahat Tattvas being agitated. Being agitated means 3 modes of material nature. So what you're seeing on the screen, that is Mahat Tattva being agitated. At first, there is transformation of the mode of goodness and passion. So I mentioned, originally it is what? Pure goodness with a tinge of passion, right? So originally it is Mahat Tattva, but under the influence of time, that little bit of passion, that act of creation, it gets manifested as Sutra Tattva. And then later, you see a translation, and later, due to the mode of ignorance, that is Ahankar, right? Ahankar, matter, knowledge, and different activities of material knowledge come into play, right? So what is this? So let me just go back to this. So now we are just focusing on this aspect here. Ahankar from the manifestation of Ahankara, right? So Mahatattva in mode of goodness, right? That's what we are focusing on. And this one can be explained again in 3 different blocks. Okay, so this Mahatattva, this ignorance, Ahankar, which is a false ego of the living entity, that actually again gets manifested into goodness, passion, and ignorance. Right? Because the modes are actually acting on everything. So even on this ignorance, the modes of action, modes of material nature act, and then this Ahankar in mode of goodness actually produces what? It actually produces something known as Jnana Shakti. Okay. Then ignorance in mode of passion produces Kriya Shakti, the Shakti of activity, Kriya, right? Kriya means activity. And the ignorance, it actually produces all the elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether. So it is known as Dravya Shakti. Okay. So this Ahankar is actually further under the influence of time, being affected by the modes, because modes are always there. For Maya Devi, the modes are there. Because now modes are active, this Ahankar is being manifested. The modes are acting on this mode of Ahankar, and then you have goodness, passion, and ignorance. So this verse is saying what? This verse says that under the mode of ignorance, matter is knowledge and activities come into play, right? So matter, that is here, matter, knowledge, that is here, and activities, that is here. Okay, so this verse is okay. So 3 aspects: knowledge, activities, matter are coming from the Ahankar, from mode of ignorance.
Oh, what is this knowledge?
Okay, what is knowledge? This knowledge is basically the knowledge of how a living entity will try to enjoy the material world. See, basically from Ahankar, right? Basically from this aspect of Ahankar, everything is material. We are not talking of any spiritual knowledge now, right? So from this aspect of Ahankar here, right? Actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually makes this point that from this point, this is our false ego, right? That's why we are here. That is the root cause of our existence here. This false ego, from here, he says, everything is nothing but a mental speculation. Because from this point onwards, everything is what? We have forgotten who we are. So it is just like some kind of speculation. And everything beyond that is just like a dream. Just like a dream state. So, false ego and mental speculation. So the knowledge there is the knowledge by which we actually act upon this material nature. How do we manipulate earth, water, fire, air, ether for our own enjoyment, right? How do we actually eat food so that we get happiness? All that knowledge is actually that knowledge of Jnana Shakti. Okay. Okay, so in this verse, in the purport Prabhupada talks about, so if you see the Dravya, Gyan, and Kriya, right? So these 3 you have to remember because it will come again and again. Dravya, Gyan, and Kriya. Actually, let's take the order in the right. Jnana, then Kriya, and Dravya. Gyan, goodness, Kriya, passion, and Dravya, ignorance. Dravya means what? All the material elements. Kriya means the activity of interacting the senses with the sense objects, and Gyan means the knowledge of how to do that interaction. Okay. So Prabhupada in the purport, he actually says that all the creation, everything is happening because initially there was that mode of passion. Passion means activity, right? So everything is happening under the influence of mode of passion. Okay. And then he actually further goes and says, Brahma is a representation of the mode of goodness. Vishnu is a representation of mode of, Brahma is a representation of mode of passion. Vishnu is a representation of mode of goodness, and Shiva is a representation of mode of ignorance, right? So, but here, if you see, everything on this chart is actually happening because of what? Ignorance, right? So hence, Prabhupada actually makes the point that Lord Shiva is the father of all material activities, because he is actually managing that entire aspect of ignorance. So, Lord Shiva is the father of material activities. So, material nature is called the mother, and the initiator of materialistic life is the father, or Lord Shiva. Okay, so how do we understand this? I don't know whether I should explain. Okay, so I'm going to explain something a little bit beyond what we are discussing here. So we made the point that Mahavishnu is glancing on material nature, right? To actually enjoy with that concept of Maya Devi. Right? So, but one way, if you see Maya or Prakriti, just a reflection. So Maya, Mahavishnu, actually he enjoys with his consort known as Rama Devi. Right? And when he actually glances upon the material nature, it is Rama Devi, the consort of Mahavishnu, who carries the glance, right? Carries the glance and gives the glance to her own reflection, which is Maya Devi or Durga Devi, right? Her own reflection. And when that glance is carried by Rama Devi, it actually one way reduces in potency and becomes who? Shambhu, Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, right? So hence it is Lord Shiva onwards who is actually one way the initiator of all the material activities. Because a glance, everything starts from the glance, but the glance to interact with the material nature Prakriti becomes Shambhu, who is Lord Shiva. Right? So Lord Shiva is actually the initiator of all material activities. So Prabhupada actually makes that point. Okay?
So Prabhuji, Rama Devi is the consort of Mahavishnu, whereas Maya Devi is the consort of Shambhu, right?
Yeah.
Shiva?
Yeah. So, and what is the relationship between Rama Devi and Maya Devi? They're a kind of a reflection.
Shadow.
Yeah, on the shadow. So you can say that.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I think one time you show this chart from the 5 canto that explained that.
This chart?
Yeah, I think I did not remember when, but you showed that.
That also comes in 3rd canto, 5th chapter.
Prabhu, so you said like Rama Devi carries the glance from Mahavishnu's glance to her reflection. So why she carries that glance again? Like, can
Because
you repeat that? Yeah.
see, the main thing is unless the Lord glances over material nature, nothing will happen.
Yeah.
Nothing, and we'll come to that point. It's come after this section, it actually makes the point. Without that glance, there is actually nothing. There may be elements, but nothing will happen without the glance of the Lord. So the Lord needs to glance, and through the glance, what is he doing? He's impregnating the material nature with the jivas. Without that, nothing is there, right? So when he is actually doing that, impregnating, and why is he doing that? Because, he's feeling insufficient. That all these jivas are within my body, they don't have a chance to come back to me. So he's feeling insufficient, and hence he actually impregnates material nature with the jivas. But because Lord Mahavishnu is completely in pure goodness, he does not directly come in contact with Prakriti. So Rama Devi, his consort, is doing that task for the Lord, that yes, you have the desire to impregnate material nature with jivas, but you are pure goodness. How will you come in contact with material nature? So she is doing that seva of taking that glance and reducing it in potency and giving it to Maya Devi. And then when the glance is given to Maya Devi, then it is Shambhu, manifestation of Shambhu. So Shambhu is the one who is actually interacting with Maya Devi. So hence that verse actually Brahma Samhita says, Shiram yatha dadi vikara vishesha yoga. It is just like that way Shambhu and Mahavishnu are similar, but when Mahavishnu wants to interact with this material nature, he becomes Shambhu. Like milk becomes yogurt.
So that glance carries all the jivas.
Jiva, yes. Yes. That's how the material nature is impregnated with the jivas.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, so the glance is Shambhu.
It's coming from Mahavishnu, but it becomes Shambhu at a particular. When it is ready to interact with the material nature, it becomes Shambhu.
It becomes Shambhu. Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the beginning, you said Maya Devi is a consort of Vishnu, right?
Yeah.
But now, actually, Maya Devi is a consort of Shambhu.
Yeah, but you know, that's the point, that Mahavishnu and Shambhu, one way are one. Like how milk and yogurt, they are both milk products. You know, but because the Lord does not directly consort, enjoy with Maya Devi, it is the energy of the Lord. Certainly, Maya Devi is also known as what? In India, there's this temple, right? Vaishnav Devi. That is Durga Devi, right? Vaishnav Devi. She is also a devotee of the Lord. She is also a consort of the Lord. But the Lord does not directly interact with her because she is doing the task of managing this material world.
So Prabhuji, can we say that Rama Devi was awakened by Mahavishnu? Because we also say that that she is a sister of Durga Ji, is the sister of the Lord.
But Rama Devi is always there with Mahavishnu. Whenever Mahavishnu is there, she is always serving Mahavishnu. It is that aspect of Maya Devi that actually is awakened, because the Lord wants to do the task of creation. Whenever Mahavishnu is there, Rama Devi is always there. Like Lakshmi Ji, she is always there serving the Lord. But when the creation has to happen, then that consort in the form of Maya Devi, she becomes awakened.
So we can say that the shadow, that's why it is said, right? She's the sister.
Yeah, she's a sister one day. Yeah. Yes, shadow or reflection of sister. We can use all those terms. Okay. Okay, so one more point in the purport, Prabhupada actually makes a point. He says, with the advancement of duration of life in a particular millennium, different modes act by gradual development. So he's basically, as Satya Yuga progresses into Dwapar, Treta, Kali, that the modes of Satya, mode of goodness and Sattva reduces, and passion, ignorance keeps increasing. In Kali Yuga, it is mostly ignorance and with passion. Yeah? Okay. There's one point in the purport. Prabhupada says this towards the end. He says the gross matters are Adi Bhutam, maintenance is Adi Daiva, and the initiator of material activities is Adhyatma. Okay, so I'll just add this to the chat and then I'll explain this. So from goodness we have Adi Daiva. From passion we have Adhyatma. And from ignorance, we have Adi. Okay. So I've just added these three. I'll explain them in the next section, next verse. Okay, let's go to text 24.
Sohankara iti prokto vikurvan samabhutridha. Vaikarikas taijasascha tamashashcheti yadbhidha dravya shakti kriya shaktir jnana shaktir iti prabho.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The self-centered materialistic ego, thus being transformed into three features, becomes known as the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance in three divisions, namely the powers that evolve matter, knowledge of material creations, and the intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Narada, you are quite competent to understand this.
Okay, so this we have already explained in our chart. If you see the chart, this verse is already explained. It says, Saha, this ahankar or false ego, iti proktaha, vikuran, it is actually getting transformed. This false ego, if you see the chart, is getting transformed in trida, in three features, vaikarikaha. So there are three more words which are actually used to represent goodness, passion, and ignorance. So if I go back to my chart, this is known as vaikarikaha, which is actually basically the mode of goodness. And then you have the next word is Vaikarikaha, then Taijasaha and Tamasaha. Taijasaha and Tamasaha. Right, so these are basically goodness, passion, and ignorance. Right? Three more words are actually described. Okay, and then Tamasaha, Cha iti, and then is divided into Dravya Shakti, power that evolves matter, Kriya Shakti, initiation that creates, and Jnana Shakti, intelligence that guides. So, Divendra Mati, you asked what is Jnana Shakti? Here Prabhupada explains Jnana Shakti as intelligence that guides such materialistic activities. Okay. So this verse I've already explained. Okay. So, right. So, Prabhupada in the purport, he actually talks about this materialistic ego, right? Materialistic ego is actually, what is this false ego? The false ego is basically our, as soon as we identify ourselves with the matter, identify ourselves with this material world, that is our false ego. And then Prabhupada in the purport, he actually makes a point that the false ego is basically an obstinacy. Does not accept the personal form of the Lord. So he actually very interestingly, Prabhupada in the purport, he actually refers to the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 24 through 27, and he says, actually this false ego is manifested as impersonalism. False ego is manifested as impersonalism. What does this mean? Normally we say, what is impersonal philosophy? That people consider that the energy of the Lord is the highest and the form of the Lord, if you go beyond and say the form of the Lord is Maya, then that is Mayavadi, right? Now that mood of impersonalism, when we say Prabhupada has come to actually Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarini. Actually, that Nirvishesha and Shunyavadi, that is there in every living entity. The manifestation of false ego is that impersonalist concept in the core of our heart, where even now, by sadhaka, when we are chanting the name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, are we really connecting to the person Krishna? Like in this material world, when you have a relationship with someone, let's say you're calling your son, right? You call your son by a name. As soon as you say a name, right? Let's see who's on the group, like Lakshmipati, okay? So Rohina Prabhu is calling his son Lakshmipati. As soon as he calls Lakshmipati, he can think, oh, that's how Lakshmipati looks. That's his form. That's his qualities. Right? It's very personal. It's a personal relationship. But when we say the name Krishna, are we connecting to the form and the quality of Lord Krishna? Maybe a little bit. You know, as we progress in bhakti, that personalism actually grows. And that impersonalism goes away. So Prabhupada is making the point that the false ego of the living entity is manifesting as impersonalism in the heart of every living entity. And as we grow in bhakti, what is happening? We are accepting, yes, Krishna is a person. He's my dear friend. I have a relationship with him, and he's with me always. He's taking care of me. He's my lover. He's my protector. He's my well-wisher. He's everything to me. And how does Krishna look? Oh, Krishna, Bara, Pidam, Natvara, Karnayor, Karnikaram. He's actually a threefold bending form. He's actually beautiful. He has a peacock feather and he's playing his flute. Oh, that is my Krishna. We are connecting. We are becoming more and more personal. And when is that personalism growing in our heart? When will that personalism grow in our heart? When we actually more and more accept that I am not a part of this material world. I belong to the spiritual world. I am a servant of Krishna. Jivera Swarupoy Krishnera Nityadas. The more we accept the principle of I am a servant of Krishna, more the personal aspect of Krishna is revealed in the core of our heart. Right? Okay? Is that okay? The ignorance of the personal feature of the Lord is due to that ignorance of Prabhupada says ignorance of the three modes, but basically this is the false ego. Is this point clear about false ego and impersonalism? Right? Makes sense? That how even that impersonalism, sometimes we say, why is Prabhupada so strong talking about impersonalism and smashing them in his lectures? He's doing that because it is that impersonalism is in the heart of all of us, and Prabhupada is destroying that impersonalism and bringing us to the point of realizing that yes, we are all servants of Krishna. That is our real ego. Right? Okay. And then further, Prabhupada actually says, what is the cause of this gross ignorance? Right? Prabhupada says it is a constant engagement of materialistic men in the matter of artificially increasing material demands. What is the cause of our bondage, our ignorance here? Because we artificially increase our material demands. Okay, just to make the discussion a little lighter, can you mention one object which right now, one way it is almost impossible to survive in this world, which 10 years back it wasn't even needed?
Cell phone.
Cell phone. Now it's like, can you live without cell phone? Almost it's like, what? How will I talk to people? How will I communicate? Well, 10 years back, no one has cell phone. Maybe they said 20 years back, no one has cell phone. Everyone talked, everyone worked, everything was happening. Now it's like, without cell phone, how will I even go there and tell that I am here? How will I even function? We all did that, right? What else can you think about?
WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, right? Now it's like, can you function without WhatsApp? How will I tell everyone that Bhakti Vaibhav class is there tomorrow? Now we cannot even think, right? Right? MSF and all that.
There was no internet, Prabhu, even.
No internet. Now when you come into someone's house, the first thing you ask is not, give me a little water, or what is your Wi-Fi password? Can I write it down? And we got so dependent on technology, right? So it is Prabhupada saying, because we artificially increase our material demands. All these things, are that really required for our survival? Can we really, is it really required for our survival? No. One way, what we need for survival, food, right? We need food. We need good oxygen. And later on, Prabhupada in the Purport actually makes this ahara, nidra, maithun, and then he actually makes this eating, sleeping, mating, and depending. We need good food. We need some rest. We need to sleep, a good place to sleep. And then he says there is some connection, right, maithun. And then he actually says that in terms of some sense gratification is required, but just minimal, just to maintain our body. And then he talks of defending, right? All these four things. That's actually what we require. But because we constantly increase our material demands, so hence we are actually entangled in this material world. So what is the solution, Prabhupada says? We have to purify our materialistic senses by engaging in devotional service. So yes, all these things are there. Now they have become unnecessary necessities. But while we are acting with all these things, what we should do? Yad karoshi, yad jahasi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, dadasi, yad tapaswasi, kaunteya tat kurusa mad arpana. So whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever engagement we are doing, we are interacting with the cell phone, everything we do it mad arpana. We offer to Krishna. And by that way, we can actually go back to Krishna. Okay, up to this point. Let's go 25.
Ramasad api bhutadir vikurvanad abhunabaha tasya matra guna shabdo lingam yad drashtri drishayo.
Hare Krishna. From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. Its a subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as the seer is in the relationship with the seen.
So if you see in these verses, one of the words that repeatedly we are seeing is Vikurvanad. Vikurvanad means transformation. So everything here is actually because of transformation of the different elements, right? So tamasas, so starting from tamasa. So we are going to focus on which element here on the chart? Tamasa, the mode of ignorance, which is actually Adi Bhuta, right? So from this Adi Bhuta, so Bhutade, Vikurna. And the first one, what is the first of these elements that generated? This is actually Shabdaha, right? And the subtle form of Shabdaha is ether. So I go back to my chart here. So if you see Adi Bhuta, let me draw this. So we are just right here. We are talking of this particular aspect, Adi Bhuta, right? And then the first of these elements, what is generated? Sound. Right? And the subtle form of sound is what? Ether. Right? So that is this word. Just telling about the sound and ether as a manifestation of Adi Bhuta. Yeah? That's it. So this is exactly as a seer is in relationship with seeing, right? So there's seer, we are seeing a particular object, right? So that is us and that is the object, right? So similarly, there is sound and the manifestation of the element or the subtle form of sound is actually sky or ether. The form of sound is ether. And why is that said to be like actually Prabhupada explained, the sound actually represents the objects that are unseen, past or present. And sound arises from this mode, and the subtle form of sound is actually ether. Ether is actually.
Prabhuji, the verse is saying the other way around. It is saying that the sky's subtle form is sound.
Its subtle form is the quality of sound. Right?
So ether's subtle form is the quality of sound?
No, actually it is sound. Actually, the main element that is first element that's produced is sound. And from sound, ether is produced.
Prabhuji, in the translation, it is saying that the first of the five elements,
Yeah, it is sky.
the sky is generated.
Okay, so let's see. We'll come to that.
Yeah,
Okay?
this is the element.
And can we read the second paragraph of the purport? It is said that the Tanmatra sound is created and then the sky. And in this verse, it is confirmed that actually it is so. The sound is the subtle form of the sky. And the distinction is that, like that, between the seer and the seen. The sound is a representation of the actual object. And as sound produced speaking, of the object gives an idea of the description of that object. Therefore, sound is a subtle characteristic of the object. Proper is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So, okay, so in the first paragraph of the purport, also Prabhupada says, now we'll be talking about sky, air, fire, water, earth, are all but different qualities of this mode of ignorance, right? And this, okay, let's see. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's fine. The only point I would like to mention is Prabhupada says, when the bewildered living entity desires to enjoy separate from Krishna, the shadow elements are generated. So what did Prabhupada, the word he used before, he used this as playthings. This entire material world is what? Playthings for the jiva. Just like a child is there, you may give some toys. Oh, play with your toys. Similarly, Krishna has given this entire material world as a plaything for us. And here he's saying it's just like shadow elements. It's not reality, it's just a reflection. Just like if I invite you all for dinner at my place, and then I say, okay, today we have pizza, samosa, kachori, gulab jamun, and I give a whole list. And you're like, wow, so much you could prepare for me. And then instead of bringing a plate, I just bring you a nice photo with all the gulab jamun and all these photos. And say, here, Prabhuji, please take. And you'll be like, what? Where is the real thing? Similarly, this entire material world is just a reflection. The reality is where? In the spiritual world. And what comes to our mind when we talk about this reflection and reality?
Adashaka Urdhamurdham.
Yes, 15th chapter. Very nice. Who said that? Oh, yeah, very nice. 15th chapter, right? The reflection of the banyan tree in this material world is upside down reflection. So all this entire material world, what we are seeing, just a reflection. Why are we getting so attached to this? Let's get attached to the real thing, which is actually spiritual. And don't worry, if I invite you to my house, I'll serve you real prasadam. I won't serve you the reflection. Okay. But here in this material world, it's all reflection. Okay, and Prabhupada also talks about this aspect of sound. See, this will come later on in the Bhagavatam. We'll talk about this. What is the first element that's generated? Sound. Right? Sound. So the manifestation of the false ego is come through the element of I, aham, me. As soon as we say me, we are here in this material world. Aham, right? I. So what is the cause of, our cause of bondage in this material world is the sound of aham mameti, or I am the center. And what is the cause of liberation from this material world? It is sound itself. It is sound itself, but it is that spiritual sound. So as soon as we connect with the spiritual sound, we are taking the spiritual sound and we are one way removing that sound of aham mameti and replacing with the sound of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Right? So sound is the cause of bondage in this material world, and sound is the cause of liberation from this material world. So Prabhupada in the purport makes this point that how he says the sound representation of the Lord is non-different from the Lord himself, because the Lord and his representation in sound are absolute knowledge. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has instructed us that all the potencies are invested in the holy name. Which is this verse?
Nam Nam.
Sarva Shakti. So many names of Krishna, but Lord has invested his own potencies in the name. So when we chant the holy name of Krishna, Prabhupada says so beautifully, he says, thus one can immediately enjoy the association of the Lord by the pure vibration of the sound representation of the holy name. So when we sit for chanting japa, we can think, now we are going to enjoy association with the Lord. Not, oh, again, 16 hours, so boring. When will you get over? I can do something meaningful. Not that. Main thing, when we sit to chant japa, we are saying, now is the time I can enjoy association with the Lord. This is the fun time. This is the real time. Everything else is shadow. Everything else is reflection. The pure devotee, therefore, is not aloof from the Lord even for a moment, because every moment he is actually chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Therefore, this holy name may therefore be constantly chanted by a devotee aspiring to be constantly in touch with the Supreme Lord. You want to be in touch with the Lord? Just keep chanting Hare Krishna, and that way we'll enjoy association with the Lord. Okay? Okay, next verse.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah, so like we heard that the Brahmaji, he heard first sound, right? It's
Tapa.
like tapa, like that. It's like first sound.
Yes. Yes, Mati, yeah. Brahmaji, he actually hears tapa as the first sound.
Yeah.
When he meditates, then what does he hear? He hears the flute of Krishna that gets manifested as the Gayatri mantra, and then that gets manifested as the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, 26 to 29.
Prabhu, one quick question: the seer and the seen, is that? Can you explain that a little bit in the translation? Like, what does that mean?
So there is the object and there is the person who is perceiving the object, right? So similarly, when you consider sound and ether, sound is actually giving a description of what the object, right? So ether. So sound is giving a description of some object which is unknown, right? So the sound is a representation of the object. Just like when you're seeing something, then you are actually identifying an object. So similarly, the sound is actually defining that particular object. Okay. Okay. Let's go next verse, 26 to 29.
Nabhasota vikurvanad abhut sparsha guno nilaha paran vayach Davamscha prana ojasaho balam. Vayurapi vikurvanat kala karma svabhavataha. Udapadyata tejo vai rupavat sparsha shabdavat. Tejasastu vikurvanad asid amborasatmakam. Rupavat sparshavach chambho goshavachcha paranvayat. Visheshastu vikurvanad abhosho gandavanabhut. Paranvayad rasasparsha shabda rupa gunanvitaha. Because the sky is transformed, the air is generated with the quality of touch, and by previous succession, the air is also full of sound. And the basic principles of duration of life: sense perception, mental power, and bodily strength. When the air is transformed in course of time in nature's course, fire is generated, taking shape with the sense of touch and sound. Since fire is also transformed, there is a manifestation of water, full of juice and taste. As previously, it also has form and touch, and is also full of sound. And water, being transformed from all variegatedness on earth, appears odorous, and, as previously, becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively.
So, what is the section we are discussing here? So, we are right here. If you can see my chart, right? So, we are discussing this section here, right? So, sound, ether. So, from that, what are the remaining elements? So, then he says the sky or ether is transformed into air, right? Air with a quality of touch. So air is full of sound and touch. So air has both the qualities of sound and touch, because air is carrying sound, like how I am speaking. It is air that is carrying the sound into the microphone, right? Sound. So air has the quality of sound, and plus touch. When you feel something, it is because of the air, right? So air is full of sound and touch. Now the next transformation is air is transformed into fire, right? And fire with the quality of form. And then this goes on. And then next you have fire, which is transformed into, which is the next element? Fire is transformed into water, yeah, with the quality of taste.
Water.
And then the last thing is water is transformed into smell. Oh, into earth with the quality of smell. Right? So this is basically a chart here. So one thing important here is air has the quality of sound and touch. Fire has the quality of sound, touch, and form. Water has the quality of sound, touch, form, and taste. And earth has all these 5 qualities. So that is basically this verse here. It's actually saying that these transformations, and saying like how each one has the qualities of the remaining elements. Okay. So this is straightforward. Right. So last sentence we just see. And water being transformed from all variegatedness on earth appears odorous, and as previously becomes qualitatively full of juice, touch, sound, and form, respectively. Okay. Let's see. In the purport, Prabhupada talks about. Okay. One thing interesting towards the end, mid of the purport, he says, diseases of the body take place. Due to derangement of air. So this is like your Ayurveda 101 for today. Prabhupada is talking in the purport. It says, why do diseases occur in the body? Because there is a derangement of the air in the body. And why is that? Because the body is made of earth, right? Earth, which is originally started from the basic principle of air. Right? Earth, which is originally started from the basic principle of air. So when air is actually this deranged in our body, you know, we'll come to this later also. When you come to 3rd canto, 5th chapter, when we discuss this, there are 10 kinds of life airs, prana, right? And when these pranas are disturbed in the body, that's when there is disease. Okay. And mental diseases result from special derangement of air within the body. Okay. And as such, yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that diseases of the body become nil by such exercises. Okay. And when we actually do yogic exercises like pranayama, when we do pranayama, what is happening? The pran, the life air, is actually again getting properly situated. Right? And when they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can also have control over them. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur actually further explains, and he says, if you the different elements here, ojas is actually responsible for the sharpness of the senses. Sahas is responsible for the sharpness of the mind, and Balam is actually responsible for the health of the body. Ojas, Sahas, and Balam. And actually, if you go to, in Ayurveda, what do they actually see? They see these combination of the material elements: Kapha, Pitta, Vayu. Right? Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu. These three elements. Right? And it says the imbalance of these three elements is what causes disease in that body. Right? So if you see in the chart, it is so scientific. If you see, our body is made of what? Earth, right? Above earth is what? Water, fire, air. Kapha, Pitta, Vayu. Right? And when there's when there's an imbalance of Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu, then we have disease. So if this Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu are actually balanced in our body, then we'll be free from disease. It's all like everything we can relate back to how this entire aspect of elements are created. Okay, next verse. Let's go next. It's 8:50. Okay, let's go. Let's finish this three, because we finished chart for this. We have to finish the chart for other two. Let's quickly do that and then need my explanation, and then we'll take a break. Okay, next 30.
Vaikarikan mano jagye deva vaikarika dasha digvatarka prachetoshvi vanindro pendra mitraka.
Okay, who's next?
Rajesh
In the
Kumar.
mood of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha, Prajapati, the Ashwini Kumaras, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in heaven, the chief of the Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all come into existence.
So now which section are we reading here? Okay, so if you go back to the chart, now we have gone to Adi Deva, right? So what is this section here? What are the elements that are produced from Adi Deva? So here it is said, from Adi Deva, you have mind, right? And you have 10 sense devatas or demigods. So, and then the list of these 10 demigods. So if you see these 10 demigods, let me see if I can share my screen. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, you see the chart here? It's there in Subodhini also. So see, there are different senses. We have not talked about how these senses are produced yet. But just on this right side, you have these devatas, big devatas: Surya, Vayu, Ashwini Kumar, Varuna, Indra, Upendra, Agni, Mitra, and Prajapati, Brahma. So all these 10 devatas are actually produced from that element on the side, okay? From the mode of goodness. Okay, So is that okay? So I lost that whole chat. That's why I stopped sharing. I just lose the whole thing. I have to see how to fix that. But where were we? So I'll just quickly write this. So we had 3, right? From goodness, passion, ignorance, right? From ignorance, we talked of all those 10 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, right? All those 10 elements. And from goodness, we talked of mind and 10 sense. Now, let's see what else is there in this verse. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. There's 2 points, but let's continue the flow and then maybe I'll come back and refer back to these 2 points. Next, 31.
Tejasatu vikurvanad indriyani dashabhavan Jnana Shakti Kriya Shaktir Buddhi Pranashta Tejaso Shrotram Tvaggrana Drijjiva Vagdor Midrangri Payavaha.
By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hand, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated.
Okay, so if you see the verse, actually it's it's easy to follow the verse. What is Sanskrit? Tejasat Vikurvanat. Vikurvanat we have seen again and again. Vikurvanat means what? Transformation. Tejasat, it was a word used for what? Passion, right? So from further transformation of passion, what is that? Das Indriya, 10 senses, right? So we are discussing this point of passion. So we get 10 senses here. And what are the 10 senses? Das Indriya. There are 2 aspects to this. One is the knowledge acquiring senses, right? Jnana, and one is the active, the working senses, right? So knowledge acquiring senses and the working senses. Okay. Now, what are the knowledge acquiring senses? We have read this before, right? Knowledge acquiring senses are actually Shrotam. So if you see a Sanskrit, Shrotam, Twa, Grahana, Jiva, and Drik. So hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, and see, right? So all those are ear, eyes, skin, nose, and touch. All those are here. Ear, skin, eyes, nose, and tongue. And what are the working senses? The working senses are basically the hands, the feet, or legs, you can say legs. Legs, the voice, the anus, and the genitals. So all these are 10, these 10 senses are produced from the mode of passion. Okay. Then further this verse says, okay, not only the 10 senses plus the intelligence, right? Buddhi, which is a Shakti. So plus intelligence, which is the Shakti of the 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and then Prana, which is a living energy, which is the energy of the 5 action senses. Okay. Is that okay? So 10 senses plus intelligence, which is the energy that manifests, that manages these 5 knowledge acquiring senses, and Pran, which is a living energy that that manages these 5 working senses.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Why these senses are transformed under the mode of passion, Prabhuji?
Because passion means what? Activity. How are you doing activity? Through the senses. And when you are actually using your senses, then what happens? You need intelligence, how to use that senses, and then you need the life air. Because a dead man may have eyes, but nothing will happen. It has the life air is actually engaging the eyes and see. So all that is under the mode of passion. Okay, so that completes our chart here. So we got starting from Karandaksha Vishnu, right, coming all the way till all the elements generated from Adhyatma, Adideva, and Adibhu. So how is everyone doing? It is technical, but once we understand the flow, it is just like makes sense. Like it's just like, yeah, we will not like 100% have understood, but we are at a state where we can actually say, yes, I understand this creation and I can actually explain it to someone. Let me see, I just want to see where is my chat.
Oh, just on a lighter note, this is the first time the notebook looks like Bhakti Vaibhav notebook.
Yeah, there's so many all these flow charts, and it's like really and it's so interesting in the third canto when we come to fifth chapter, exact same thing is given, but even more details. So this is just like one depth, but we'll go to a much deeper depth in third canto, fifth chapter. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so if you see this chart, you can see my screen, right? Oh. Right, you can see my screen. So this is basically on Sumodhini. So we have covered this whole thing. Starting from Karanaksha Vishnu, his glance, he impregnates jivas into the material nature, right? So Kal and Jiva. The jivas have what? Karma and Swabhav, right? That's impregnated into what? Mahatattva. But then Mahatattva, when the modes are not active, is known as Pradhan, right? When they become active, that is Mahatattva, and Sattva Guna is actually Mahatattva. When it mode of passion becomes active, it becomes Sutra, and in mode of ignorance, it is Ahankar. And Ahankar also, because the modes are acting even on this aspect of Ahankar, the mode of goodness is basically the Jnana Shakti, passion is Kriya Shakti, ignorance is Dravya Shakti. And then that Jnana Shakti is manifest what? The mind and the 10 sense devatas, and because it's talking of the demigods, it is known as Adi Daiva, right? And then this manifests what? The 10 senses, the 5 senses are managed by the Pran, and 5 senses are managed by intelligence. And because Adhyatma, this is ourselves, right? So Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adi Adhyatma, right? So all those are Adhyatma, referring to ourselves, and Adi Bhuta, referring to what? 5 Tanmatras and 5 elements, sound, touch, right? And these are the demigods that are actually manifested here. Right? So last time Divani Mataji had this question that Brahma is generated here, all these demigods are generated here. Then aren't there demigods generated from Brahma himself? So where is the manifestation of demigods? So there are actually certain demigods which we read here. They are manifested as a part of the Sarga, primary creation. These demigods are manifested from Karanaksha Vishnu himself. And then from Brahmaji, there are other demigods that are manifested. And those demigods are manifested in the Visarga aspect. They are coming from Brahmaji. So there are two different sets of demigods. One manifested during primary creation. That's the list here. The one manifested in second creation. In the third canto, fifth chapter, when we come to this section, so after these demigods are created, they are created, and they actually make the point that we all demigods are created through goodness, passion, and ignorance, as a transformation. But there is no connection between all of us. And you actually want us to create. Unless there is a kind of bonding, how will we create? Like let's say you have a project, right? We want to build a home. And then you call 10 different people and you say, okay, we are building a home. But all the 10 of them, there is no common bonding or connection between them. How will they work? Right? So at that point, all the demigods realize the only way we can actually accomplish what the Lord really wants, the task of creation, is we need to pray to the Lord. So in that third canto, fifth chapter, at this point, all the demigods, they offer devotional prayers to Karanaksha Vishnu. And there's like a whole section in the third canto, fifth chapter, where demigods are offering prayers that without receiving knowledge from you, how can we actually do this task of creation? And you actually are the original creator, you are the shelter. And then after receiving these prayers, then it is Karanaksha Vishnu who actually enters into all these elements, the 23 elements we have discussed, enters into elements. He enlivens these different demigods who are in charge of the different elements, and then the aspect of creation takes place as Visarga, the secondary aspect of creation. Okay. Okay. Let's take a deep breath. So all this knowledge can actually be digested, because it is a lot of knowledge, and I hope people are not having indigestion symptoms from this knowledge. So, okay, let's take a break here, and let's see what is your level of understanding of this entire thing. Yatha Shishma, this process of creation.
So, Prabhu, the Adidevya, which you were explaining, like these demigods. So, when we say that the suffering caused by, devatas, are these demigods to be considered, or the Visarga demigods to be considered?
Both actually.
Both.
Yeah, both. Both demigods. Because these demigods are managing our senses. When we say the demigods, Dig Devata, it manages our ear, like Surya manages our eyes. So yes, they are managing our body, and we have suffering because of that. There is poor eyesight, we need glasses. All those are some problems, right? But there are other problems also, which are caused by other demigods. So all those demigods are creating the Adidevik problems. Like, this is basically relating to the senses, but we also have problems. Why? Oh, it's too hot today, too cold today, or too rainy. And that's controlled by Varun Dev, other demigods. Right? So Varuna is also actually here. Okay. Anything else?
The 10 knowledge acquiring senses. Sometimes sometimes it's described as like 20, right? Because like it's with the ear and then hearing, right? And then skin touching. Like sometimes it's divided into that.
So 10 senses, and then 5 tanmatras and 5 elements. See, in the chart, if you see, the 5 tanmatras and 5 elements are what? Under the mode of ignorance, right? Manifested through the Dravya Shakti, right? So totally it is 23 elements, right? Even in third canto, when we read Sankhya philosophy, right? We'll read of, anyway, it's different numbers throughout Bhagavatam. Sometimes it is 9, sometimes it is 6, sometimes it's 23, sometimes it's 25. And actually there's a verse, it says, whether it is 3, 6, 9, 23, 25, it does not matter. There's a verse that says that also. But here, when we talk of the main 23 elements in our discussion, what are the 23 elements? Okay, who can unmute and say? 23 elements.
5 Jnanendriyas,
Okay.
5 Karmendriyas, and 5 Tanmatras.
Slowly. So first is what you said, 5 Jnanendriyas. What are the 5 Jnanendriyas? Ear,
Skin,
nose, and tongue. Right?
Yeah.
Then you said what? 5 Karmendriyas. What are the 5? Hands,
legs, voice,
anus, genitals.
genitals, and anus.
Yeah. Okay, that's 10. After that, next.
5 Tanmatras.
5 tanmatras. What are they? Sound, touch, form, taste, smell. Right. And then what? 5 more?
Sound, touch.
Elements.
Earth, water, fire.
The 5 elements.
Fire. Right. So that is 20. Now what are the remaining 3?
Mind, intelligence, also.
Yeah. Mind, intelligence. So we see what mind. When was mind created? From the mode of goodness. From the Jnana Shakti, mind was created. Right. From the intelligence was created from where? Kriya Shakti. Right.
Passion.
Here, 23rd is the false ego, because everything is actually manifesting because of the ahankar. So those are the 23 elements. Like one way, 23, the 23rd can also be considered as the life air or prana. Because let's consider 23rd as the life air or prana. Because if you see that chart, right? If you see a chart, here are 23 elements. Mind, 10 sense devata, 11. Prana, 12. 12 plus 10. Oh yeah, don't consider 10 sense devata because they are controlling, right? So mind, prana, so that is 2. 2 plus 10, 12. 13 intelligence. 13 plus 10, 23. the 23 elements right here. Right? These 10 sense avatars are just controlling the senses. So there's only 23 different elements.
Prabhuji, so 20 plus mind and intelligence, and you are saying prana, no false ego then?
Yeah, see this, like in different sections, these elements are defined differently. These 20 are common, but if you see Kapila Dev's teachings, he says mind, intelligence, and a false ego considers that 23rd element. So here in this discussion, let's consider prana, because the next verse will talk about how these elements actually mix and you finally actually have the creation. So it is interesting that these 10 sense devatas, this comes in the 3rd canto, where it says these 10 sense devatas like Surya, Vayu, Ashwini, they are manifested from Karnadaksha Vishnu. But what about the elements of the body, that earth, water, fire, air, ether, because the bodies also, demigods also have a body, right? But at this time, all these elements are not mixed together. So what Karnadaksha Vishnu does, he actually just mystically gives all of them bodies without going through the aspect of creation of earth, water, fire, air, and all. He mystically just gives all of them bodies, and then they actually chant those prayers, and then they continue the aspect of creation. Okay. Okay. So 9, 10. I just want to see that everyone has a good idea of this whole explanation. Yes.
We have to read at least 3-4 times.
But the clarity is there of how this entire creation. Yeah.
Yes, with your chart, yes, Prabhuji. If we don't see the chart, we'll
Yes,
be lost.
Prabhuji. Yes.
Okay, that's good. So let's take a 5 minutes break, and then 9:15, and then we'll do another 20-25 minutes and start. Okay. So thank you all so much. Let's take a quick break and then come back. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, everyone, please come back. Okay, so, okay, let's see. Maybe we can start off with what are the points like, okay, we covered this entire technical aspect, but what are the points that you can think about beyond this technical aspect, more in the mood of like contemplating, like understanding this whole thing? What can we think about like beyond this, just the technical aspect?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
I mean, this entire the knowledge is so like priceless. You know, if you start analyzing this, it's very hard to come to a conclusion. But you know, in just one verse, everything, you know, what is the sequence, how these elements were created, you know, what is the basis, and how to build up. Like even if you look at the scientific things, like the inventions also, you know, kind of, you know, in the similar. First it was started with the sound, and then, you know, it came a build upon it. Like, you know, that's what I found the similarities. Even whatever that we scientific advancements are making, they're all just based on this one simple formula, like how these elements are created.
Okay,
That's what.
that's a good point. Like, you know, one point, if you actually see, like, you know, amazing, what is the depth of knowledge of Bhagavatam? Like, you know, scientists for over centuries have been trying to figure out how did creation take place? How did the Big Bang theory happen? And how there was an explosion, and because of the explosion, all these universes are there, and then you know how the manifestation there. But just in this one chart, how different universes are created, and further in this chapter, how the different planetary systems, Brahma, everything is there. See the depth of knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. You know? And if you actually try, like, okay, I'm going to use science and try to come up with the explanation of creation, it's impossible. It's foolish. Like how Prabhupada gives an example, it's just like a boy is going to the bank of the ocean, also on the beach, right? On the beach, right? He's going on the beach and he's building like a sand castle, and he builds like a small sand castle and say, yes, now I have figured out the entire ocean. Like, what is your position in front of the unlimited ocean? That is exactly like our situation. If you're trying to create something and say, yes, now I understand, it's nothing. Your sandcastle, one wave will come, over. One, swing comes, life over, everything over, all your inventions, khatam, everything, right? So our position is so tiny, but we are able to access the depth of the ocean just by the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is one realization. What else can we think of? Like a little bit more devotional perspective?
Prabhuji, for me is that reading all this, I realized that I am in a tree house where I am thinking that I am the controller, right? But this knowledge gives me that I have to go back to my real home and serve Krishna. It's not my real home here.
Very nice. So we get attached to so many things in this material world, and then we take things so seriously. Oh, if this does not happen, then what will happen? How will I live? Oh, what will happen to me? All these things we take so seriously. But all this is just like a small, tiny reflection of our reality. It's just a playhouse, how Prabhupada said. Krishna has given us a playhouse in the backyard. Say, okay, try to enjoy that. When you're bored, you can come back inside. Right? Similarly, our situation. When you are tired of this material world and say, oh, there's nothing here except for Krishna. Krishna, please, I just want to come back to my original home. And you realize. Right? So it's very nice when we think about that, how this entire material manifestation is just a reflection of the true reality. And our real home is in the spiritual world.
Yes, like a dream.
Like a dream, yes.
Yeah.
So when we see dreams, then we may see a nice house, or we may go to the ocean, or we may see something nice vacation. When we wake up, it's all over, right? Now, if even after waking up, we are thinking that in the dream, I saw that nice house. I want that house. I'm so attached to that house. What's the value? It's just a dream. Similarly, our entire existence here can be considered as a dream. The other point, devotional point we can think about is how Krishna is so kind. We turned away from Krishna, right? But Krishna, even from the aspect of Mahavishnu, he's feeling like insufficient. He's like, these jivas are here. I want to give them a chance so that they can come to me. And every cycle of creation, maintenance, annihilation, is an opportunity for the jiva to actually go back to Krishna. Like, see, it is so wonderful. You can consider every life we take here in this material world. Okay, we are born to so and so parents. We have this, whatever, 60, 70, 80 years, is an opportunity for us to go back home, back to God. Right? So each life. Now, beyond each life, we can say each creation, the entire aspect of creation, maintenance, that is an opportunity for us to go back home, back to God. And if you miss that opportunity, if you miss this lifetime, then maybe next lifetime. We don't know what is the situation then. Now we are fortunate, we have Association of Devotees, we have Prabhupada, we have ISKCON Society, we have everything favorable. Next lifetime, we don't know. Right? Now consider, this is one lifetime to lifetime. Consider the aspect of creation. One creation, then we go back into Mahavishnu, we are there for so long, we come back, and then Sri Krishna said, hey, so much time is wasted. Now at least realize, come back to me. So in that way we can actually.
Prabhuji, I also like the point that how sound is the cause of bondage, but also sound is the cause of liberation. So His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj says that we should all build a tree house where we should retreat and just sing the holy name, because that will liberate us.
And how do we get attached to things? We hear about it, Someone comes and says, oh, I went to this place, it's so beautiful, you have to go. The sound enters, that what happens? Immediately create desires in our heart. And that is the cause of our bonding. But you come to devotee and devotee says, oh, I read this second canto, 5th chapter of Bhagavatam. It's amazing. You should understand this creation. And then the desire comes in the heart. Wow, 2.5. I should go and read it. So it is which sound we are taking that is either a cause of bondage or liberation. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. 32 through 35. Okay, so let's just do the English because we are a little bit short on time. So who is next?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. 32. O Narada, best of the transcendentalist, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and the modes of nature are not assembled. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So yada, as long as these elements, so elements are created, but still the bodies cannot be produced. See, finally our body as human being, as cat, as dog, as elephant, as, all these animals, right? The body needs to be produced. And what is the body? It's just a mixture of earth, water, fire, air, right? All those is creating the body. Now all the elements are there, but it says asangataha, without being assembled, Then the last sentence says ayatana nirmane na shekuhu. The bodies cannot be formed without the sangataha, the mixing of these elements. Okay. So how does that mixing take place? Let's read the next verse.
Thus, when all these became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation.
Okay. So now all the elements were created up to this point, but then the point is said that thus when all these became assembled, so before the word was asangataha, they were disassembled, but now it says tada samhatya, they became assembled. How did they become assembled? Bhagavad Shakti Chodita. So again, Krishna had to, or Mahavishnu had to enter into each element, enter into each element to make them active so that the combination can take place. So that energy is actually known as the compacting or the cohesive energy. Compacting or cohesive energy. And because of this energy, then the elements can actually now mix together and produce bodies. Like earth, water, fire, air can mix and give us a human form body. Or you can get the body of demigods or cats or dogs or cows, elephants, and so on. Right? So it's all because of the compacting or the cohesive energy of the Lord. Okay. And then by that, it says both primary and secondary causes of creation takes place. So this can mean two things. One is the universe as a whole as the primary creation, and secondary from Brahmaji, because from Brahmaji, all the different bodies are created. Right? Who gives decides as cow, as cat, and all these different species, 8.4 million species. Brahmaji is doing the secondary task. So both primary and secondary, it actually all happens because the Lord enters into all these energies through his cohesive energy, right? Bhagwan Shakti Chodita, unless the energy of the Lord is actually applied. Okay, so next verse, let's go further.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Thus all the universes remain thousands of eons within the water, the causal motion, and the Lord of living beings entering in each of them cause them to be fully animated. Hare Krishna.
So it says Sahasra Ante, for thousands of years. So imagine the universe is come out from the pores of Mahavishnu. All the things what we read up to this point, elements are assembled, 23 elements are there, but still, demigods are also there, but still the interaction is not happening. Lord enters into each of the element as cohesive energy. Then the interaction actually begins. Right? So here, when we say the Lord enters, the Lord is actually piercing into each universe as what? As what?
Garbhodakshay Vishnu.
Yes, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, right? So as Garbhodakshay Vishnu, he's piercing into each universe. And when he actually pierces into each universe, then if you see this verse, the last line, it says Jivo, Ajivam, Ajivaya. So what was all non-animated, unanimated, all these elements, they become animated. That means there's life in this and they actually start interacting. Right? So that's all happening between by Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So Garbhodakshay Vishnu, or also it is explained as the Hiranya Garbha. So Prabhupada says the Lord as Garbhodakshay Vishnu or the Hiranya Garbha, the super soul enters into each and every universe and hence everything becomes animated. Right? So if you see the entire creation, how does it start? Will of the Lord, right? Will of the Lord awakens Maya Shakti. Then how does it actually further continue? Glance of the Lord. First is will of the Lord, then glance of the Lord, right? The glance of the Lord. Then through the glance of the Lord, then the jivas are impregnated. And then because of the modes, then the transformations appear. Then even the demigods, the 10 demigods are produced. But even the 10 demigods, they cannot work. Then again, what they do? They pray to the Lord and the Lord actually enlivens them. Then the demigods can do the function. But what about the remaining 23 elements? That also is that and is inanimate. The Lord has to enter into each one of them. Every step of creation, Brahma is telling Narada, it is the Lord who is actually doing it. I am only a secondary creator. I am creating what has already been created. What is the example we gave last time?
Spider.
No, Columbus.
Columbus finding
No. Yeah.
birds.
Newton, Prabhuji.
Flower.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
flowers are very grounded.
Newton gravitation.
Okay, so all are good. The particular I was looking for is grinding the flour which is already grounded. So it has already become powder, and you're taking that and saying, oh, I ground it. And see, now it is powder. It was already powder even before you started. So that's how Brahma is saying, right? Yeah, right. So that's the point. Okay. The text 35.
Hare Krishna. The Lord Mahavishnu, all the lying in the causal ocean, came out of it, and dividing himself as Hiranyagarbha, he entered into each universe and assumed the Virat Rupa with thousands of legs, arms, mouths, heads, etc.
So it is Mahavishnu lying on the causal ocean. He actually, so now we are talking about, if you go back and see, Mahavishnu is breathing all these universes, right? The bubbles are coming out. And then in that we read in each bubble, all these transformation of, the modes and ahankar and all these elements, everything is created within each universe, right? The Lord is piercing, entering into each universe as Garbhodakshay Vishnu or Hiranya Garbha. And then once he enters, then he actually manifests a Virat Rupa in each universe, right? And the Virat Rupa consists of the 14 planetary systems and so on. Right? So entire aspect of creation. So there are three things actually. Once it enters, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Hiranya Garbha, and Virat Rupa. Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Hiranya Garbha, Virat Rupa. And if I can share my screen, I think. Okay. Anyway, I'll post a photo on the group that will explain all these three. Garbhodakshay Vishnu, who is lying on the Garbha ocean, because each universe he fills it half with water with his own sweat, and he lies on Ananta Shesh. And then from his navel, Brahmaji is born. That is Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Hiranya Garbha is actually the sum total of all the jivas together, is the super soul of the entire universe. That is Hiranya Garbha. And Virat Rupa, it is a kind of an imagination of the living entities, but it is through the Virat Rupa that the entire 14 planetary systems are actually manifested. And this is actually when, from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu, when the lotus is born, it is that Hiranya Maya who actually enters into the lotus and becomes the subtle body of Brahmaji, who gives the blueprint of the entire universe. So Hiranya Maya, this Hiranya Garbha, is actually the one way you can consider becomes the subtle body of Brahmaji, and through the subtle body, Brahmaji knows that this is how I have to create. Just like an architecture, he does a design, right? And the person who's building the building, he just goes there, and then the architecture says, contractor is there, right? The architect, this is a design, this is what you need to build. So this room has to be here, this bedroom is here, bathroom is here, everything is there in the design. So Brahmaji has a design. That is given by who? Hiranyagarbha. Now, the contractor also needs wood, he needs cement, he needs bricks to create. Who is giving all that? Durgaji or Maya Devi. So Brahmaji is taking the blueprint from Hiranyamaya, he's taking the ingredients from Durgaji, and then he's putting everything together. So that Brahmaji is a contract.
Yeah, Prabhuji, it's like in technical language nowadays, like template is there.
This template is there. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. So now we have said Virat Rupa, right? So what is this Virat Rupa? We have already discussed before, right? What is a Virat Rupa form? Let's see now what is said in 36.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So Hiranyagarbha and Garbhodakshaya Vishnu are one and the same or no?
Here in this context, Prabhupada says as the same, because he says as a super soul, Hiranyagarbha, or the super soul of the universe, or Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. They are manifestation of the same personality. Mahavishnu himself is becoming both. So that is a subtle difference, but here Prabhupada is saying they are the same. But if you want to see the subtle difference, you can say Hiranyagarbha is the sum total of all jivas or consciousness, right? And Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the personality who's lying on the Garbha ocean, from whose navel Brahma is coming. That is a more subtle difference. Explanation.
Okay, thank you.
And if I get a chance, I'll share my screen and show you on chat. Okay, let's go 36.
Great philosophers imagine that the complete planetary systems in the universe are displays of the different upper and lower limbs of the universal body of the Lord.
Okay, 1 minute. I'm just trying to share my screen just so that I can show you this. Let's see if that works. Share. Okay, you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes, no?
Yes, Prabhuji. You see a screen, but there's nothing. It's just
Okay.
opening up.
Now you see it, right? So if you see this, so this is so each universe we are seeing, right? So this bubble is the whole universe, and it has earth, water, air, fire, ether. So you see all the different layers, and the last layer it says Mahat Tattva, false ego. So all these different layers. Now inside each, so Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is outside. He's entering into each one of these, and then there's the entire Mahat Tattva, right? This whole thing is a Mahat Tattva. Beyond also you see Mahat Tattva. It's everywhere. And then there's Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, who is the super soul of every living entity, right? Hiranyagarbha, which is this golden form, which is actually shown as a sum total of all jivas as Hiranyagarbha. And Virat Purusha is the one who is actually, all the planetary systems are explained as a Virat Purusha. And then below we see who? Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, who's lying here. And from the navel of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, it is actually Brahmaji is born, which is on top of the. I know you're not able to see where I'm pointing, but I hope you are following along. On top, you see on the lotus, Brahmaji is actually born. Okay. Yes, no. Everyone has blank faces. Yeah.
Does the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu have many arms and like the?
Oh, that's Virat Purusha.
That's Virat Purusha. Because sometimes it's described in some past tense, like.
Oh yeah.
Like he has many heads, many arms. Yeah.
Anyway, for our discussion now, it's already complicated. We'll just keep it simple. That Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is the one who is lying on the Garbha ocean, and Virat Rupa has the form we are reading now. So let's go back to our text. So we are discussing text number 36, right? So in 36, what does it say? Right. So if you see in 36, so I know it's a lot of information. Just bear with me another 5-7 minutes and then we'll stop. So it says in 36, Kalpayanti. You see the word Kalpayanti? What does Kalpayanti mean? Imagine, right? So it says great philosophers imagine this entire planetary system to be the limbs of the Virat Purusha. So actually this Virat Purusha is an imaginary form. It is not something which is actually eternally existent like Garbhodakshay Vishnu or Kanadakshay Vishnu. These forms are there. But Virat Purusha is a Kalpayanti or imagination of the philosophers to actually see this entire universal form. Okay. Next 37. And now it is easy. So, you can easily follow now. So let's keep going. 37.
Brahmanas
Sorry, Prabhuji, we have discussed this before that the Virat Purusha is not imaginary, but this conception that these different planetary systems are his limbs, that's imaginary.
Yes. So is the manifestation of the Virat Rupa, see the universal Virat, is an imagination of the speculative philosophers. Prabhupada says, imagination of the speculative philosophers.
Yeah, like for impersonalist, right?
I mean, like in the first chapter of the second canto, what is the title of the chapter? First step in God realization. So those who cannot accept the form of the Lord as the one playing the flute, as Shama Sundar, they can actually imagine that this entire material creation is different limbs of the form of the Lord. And that form of the Lord, which is actually these different planetary systems, is actually the Virat Purusha or Virat Rupa. Okay, so let's continue. 37.
The Brahmanas represent his mouth, the Kshatriyas his arm, the Vaishyas his thighs, and the Shudras the bone of his legs.
So now everything is actually getting manifested from the Virat Purusha. So Brahmanas are who? They are from the mouth of the Lord. Kshatriyas are the arms, Vaishyas thighs, Shudras are born from the legs. So the entire Virat Purusha, all the four Varnas are actually manifesting as different parts of that Virat Purusha. 38.
Hare Krishna. The lower planetary systems up to the limit of the earthly stratum are said to be situated in his legs. The middle planetary system beginning from Bhuvar Loka are situated in his navel. And still the higher planetary systems occupied by the demigods and highly cultured sages and saints are situated in the chest of the Supreme Lord.
Right. So as we said, like here they are imagining the lower planet, they are doing this imagination of the lower planet system up to the earth are actually the legs of this Virat Purusha. The middle, beginning from Bhuvar Loka, are in navel, and higher is actually considered as the occupied by demigods are in the chest of the Virat Purusha. Okay, further 39.
39 translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. From the forefronts of the chest up to the neck of the universal form of the Lord are situated the planetary systems named Janaloka and Tapaloka, whereas Satyaloka, the topmost planetary system, is situated on the head of the form. The spiritual planets, however, are eternal. Hare Krishna.
In the Virat Purusha, we read up to the chest. Now it says from the chest to the neck is basically the Janaloka and Tapaloka. And then the Satyaloka is head. Right? So 14 planetary systems is actually divided from bottom, from the feet all the way to the head. We have covered 14 planetary systems. But then it actually says, the last two words says Brahmaloka Sanatana. So here Brahmaloka is not referring to the planet of Brahma, but here Brahmaloka is referring to Vaikuntha. But beyond all these 14 planetary systems is a spiritual world, which is always eternal. Right? Okay, next. 40, 41.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. My dear son Narada, know from me that there are 7 lower planetary systems out of the total 14. The first planetary system, known as Atala, is situated on the waist. The second, Vithala, is situated on the thighs. The third, Sutala, on the knees. And fourth, Talatala, on the shanks. The fifth, Mahatala, on the ankles. The sixth, Rasatala, on the upper portion of the feet. And the seventh, Pathala, on the soles of the feet. Thus, the Virat form of the Lord is full of all planetary systems.
right? So this is like, and they are imagining that from the waist. So there are 14, right? So now we are talking on the lower. So waist, you have Atala, and as you go down, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. 14 lower planetary systems are different points from the waist all the way to the feet are represented by these 14 these 7 lower planetary systems. Now let's do 42.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Others may divide the whole planetary system into 3 divisions, namely the lower planetary systems on the legs up to the earth, the middle planetary systems on the navel, and the upper planetary systems, Swaraloka, from the chest to the head of the Supreme Personality.
So now we're saying like either 14 planetary systems or you can divide them into 3. What is it? The upper planetary system, middle, and the lower. So if you consider upper, middle, and lower, then it is top part, middle part, and the bottom part of the Virat Purusha. Okay, and that's the last verse, right? Okay, that's it. So, so last part I went a little fast because it was like just, identifying the different planetary systems to the different parts of the Virat Purusha. Okay. Okay, so let's stop here. It's 45. So I hope it was okay, the class. I tried to explain the best I could, but it may require you to like read through it again. And maybe this week, if you can take time, just read through this entire chapter and finish the whole chapter, and then write down questions that you have, in this entire chapter, particularly from this section from 21 to 35. From that entire. So please, everyone, I want to see some questions on the group. So please post these questions about creation, because when you think more, then these aspects of creation will become clear. Okay. Okay, so thank you all so much. So one announcement I have is next week I'm out of town and I'm in New Vrindavan. So I won't be able to take class. So and then week after that is Sadhu Sangha. So I'm thinking, so that we don't have a 2 weeks break, not this week, but the following week, if we can do one class, we won't do like 3 hours. We'll do like maybe 1.5 hour or 1 hour 15 minutes on like either a Tuesday evening or Wednesday evening. Will that be okay? We can do like maybe 7 to 8:15, or otherwise we'll have 2 weeks break, and we'll lose that touch. So maybe you can select either Tuesday or Wednesday, or even Monday is okay for me. One of these 3 evenings, let's say 7 or 7:30. What's a good time to start? Either. Okay. So I'm just want to make sure your work is over and you're back. So let's say 7 to 8:15. We'll do one of these days, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Wednesday
is better.
Wednesday is not good for me.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, so I'll put a poll on the group, but this is not this week. We're talking about the following week. Okay? So this week we'll just have a break, and then next week we'll do one class. Okay? So I'll just put a poll with a few options. So most of you can, sign up for that, see which option works. And in case you are unable to join on a weeknight, due to some reason, maybe Sunday morning, someone can just play the video for that 1 hour 15 minutes at 7 to 8:15. So in case anyone is able to, it's good you join in person, because then you can have questions and we can discuss this section also. But in case you are unable to join, on Sunday you can play the video, and we can have this video on the Zoom link, so that everyone, those who missed, can join on Sundays. Okay.
So in this next class, we will be again discussing the same. We go through study and then come up with questions. You will clear that.
Yeah, let's see how many questions are there in the group. Based on the questions, we'll start with answering the questions. And then next chapter is Purusha Shukta prayers. So it's very nice actually. We often chant this Purusha Shukta prayers, but we'll see how Bhagavatam is establishing the prayers of Purusha Shukta. It again goes further into creation, but it's very beautiful section. So we'll start the next chapter, but let's see how many questions you have. Most of the questions maybe I'll answer directly on the group itself. So it'll be easy. And then we can start 2.6. Okay. Anything else?
This Hiranyamaya, this is also Brahmasamhita's reference, right?
Yes.
You shared it before, actually.
Actually, this
Not on this group, but on the Bhagavatam group.
this image is also from the Bhagavad Gita, like from verses 2.7, sorry, 5.7, fifth chapter, right? So 5.7 to 5.21 is all about this aspect of creation. If you want to go more in detail, then all the best for you. Brahma Samhita is even more complicated, but it's very nice actually. You can really go into in-depth that level of study. Okay. Okay. So anything else? I know the class was technical, but I hope you can appreciate the points of this class and aspect of creation. And please read through, because once you have it, and if you read through quickly in this week, like during this week, today, tomorrow, whenever you have time, if you go back to the points, then what you heard today, then you'll be like, oh yeah, this is what was the point. This is a point. Yeah, Prabhupada explained this. It will become very clear then. Right? So this week, please read through the entire chapter and please post questions in the group. Thank you so much. We'll end here. I see Arunti Mati. Is that a question?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So, yes, Bhuloka
1 minute.
is.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Shall I wait, Prabhuji? Or...
Wait 1 minute. I just wanted to just end because 9:50. If anyone wants
Sure.
to, you can drop and then I'll take the question. So thank you so much. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Vancha. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for your association. Hare Krishna. So
Hare
I'll
Krishna.
add one question if you have to drop. That is fine. Yeah, Arundhati Mati, now you can go.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So the Bhuloka, is it coming under lower planetary system or upper planetary system?
Yeah. We are in Bhuloka, right? Bhuloka. We are in Bhuloka, right? So we are in the middle planetary system. So if you see in the last verse we read, it says the whole planetary system can be divided into 3 divisions: lower, middle, and,
Okay.
right? So we are in the middle.
Right.
Right?
According to this, yes, middle. But if you divide in the previous chapters, we read it as like upper and lower only, right, Prabhuji?
Did we do that division?
Yeah, 7 lower and 7 upper.
No.
Then, Atala, Vitala, Sutala coming under lower planetary system, and then Bhuvarloka, they are coming under upper planetary system. So we are at the bottom of the upper planetary system if we divide it into.
Divide into 2, then we are in the lowest of the top 7 planetary systems. Right? Bhur,
Right.
Swarga, then Jana, Tapa.
Okay. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it.
Like
Thank you.
it's the ground level where you can get out of the elevator, is how I understood.
Nice point that, we are in a building, 14-story building, 14-floor building, and then there are 7 floors basement below us. We are on the ground, and then there are 6 above us. The way to get out of the building is through the ground floor, through where we are situated. Yes. Thank you so much, sir. We'll end here. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dhanusrana, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you all devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.